On June 9th, Stripe demonstrated the efficiency of Anthropic's new Claude Fable 5. They migrated a 50 million-line Ruby codebase in one day, a project that was expected to take their engineering team 2 months. This case study positioned Fable 5 as the most capable frontier model for high-tier coding automation currently available. But just 3 days later, the U.S. government issued an emergency export control order, forcing Anthropic to cut access to the model globally. The order followed a report from Amazon researchers who found a way to bypass safety guardrails, enabling the model to identify and write exploits for software vulnerabilities. The resulting 18-day blackout severed the API for thousands of developers who had already integrated Fable 5 into their production workflows. This disruption highlighted a new strategic reality. Even the most capable AI model is a liability if a government can shut it down overnight. Fable 5 returned on July 1st, but it wasn't a standard product relaunch. It was a conditional release following weeks of negotiation. To lift the ban, Anthropic agreed to structural concessions and oversight from the Commerce Department. For enterprise leaders, the question is whether these new compromises allow the model to remain viable in a production environment. Deploying Fable 5 now depends on how your organization navigates specific financial, operational, and regulatory constraints. The incentive to adopt is clear. Fable 5 provides the highest multi-step reasoning capabilities of any model currently on the market. However, that performance comes at a high price. Anthropic has positioned Fable 5 as the most expensive frontier model globally. This chart shows total cost per million tokens for leading models. Fable 5 is priced at $60, nearly double the cost of current alternatives. Note the cost delta here. GPT 5.5 and Opus 4.8 sit in the $30 to $35 range. When you scale these costs across high-volume automated pipelines, the $60 rate creates a significant increase in operational expenses over time. Choosing Fable 5 increases your overhead immediately, which means the model must provide high, measurable efficiency gains to be worth the investment. Anthropic's primary technical commitment to the government was a new safety classifier with 99% accuracy. Because this classifier uses a wide safety margin, it often flags benign, legitimate coding and debugging requests. When a prompt is blocked, the session automatically downgrades to the older Claude Opus 4.8. You still pay for the tokens used during these false positive rejections and downgraded sessions. This framework keeps the model legally available, but it functions as a tax on your developer's productivity and your budget. There is a separate compliance risk in the updated terms of service, a mandatory data retention policy. Anthropic now requires all user prompts and model completions to be held for at least 30 days. This telemetry requirement conflicts with the zero retention policies that are standard in highly regulated industries. For organizations managing data under HIPAA or GDPR, this 30-day window creates a direct legal and compliance hurdle. These retention terms make Fable 5 difficult, or even impossible, to justify for healthcare networks, for legal teams, and financial institutions. The Commerce Department's letter to Anthropic included a final warning. The government can reevaluate or revoke these permissions at any time. Relying on a single closed API vendor in the U.S. now creates a strategic vulnerability for your infrastructure. We see the difference here. While U.S. models face regulatory gates, Chinese open-weight models like Minimax M3 flow into the market without restrictions. These models offer 1 million token context windows and competitive coding performance without the risk of U.S. export controls. If you build solely on Fable 5, your technical architecture remains a single point of failure that can be disrupted by policy changes. To decide your next move, map your company's risk profile against these constraints. This decision tree shows the 3 primary paths. If you handle regulated data in healthcare, finance, or law, the 30-day retention policy makes this model a clear avoid. You should prioritize local open-weight models or APIs that offer verified 0-day retention. For critical infrastructure or international teams who cannot afford another 18-day blackout, the recommendation is a hybrid architecture. Use Fable 5 for its power, but maintain a proxy layer that can automatically fail over to unrestricted models like Qwen 3.7 Max. Finally, for software dev teams and startups that need the highest automation regardless of cost, the path is strategic deployment. Take advantage of the current 7-day promotion to execute your largest legacy code migrations while the 50% allowance is active, and train your engineers to identify prompts that trigger the safety classifier to minimize budget waste on downgrades. Selecting an AI model is no longer just about benchmarks. It is a choice about architectural sovereignty. Assess your risks and build for resilience.